So today we're going to talk about whether or not you are ready to get your first old motorcycle. Now, this is going to be related more to new riders, because I recommend, first of all, new riders should have like a small bike, like 300cc or something like that. And secondly, new riders shouldn't be getting really old bikes because of the issues that I'm going to talk about. There's enough for new riders to think about when riding, you know, learning the controls and controlling the bike, and you know, roadcraft or road strategy, things like that. New riders have already got enough on their plate with learning all of that, and they don't need the issues that an older bike could throw them off. So I recommend, there's some service places won't work on a bike that's over 10 years old, so maybe we set that, I could set that as a benchmark to say I think new riders should probably have a bike that's no older than 10 years. So anyway, welcome to my channel where we talk about bikes and more, and today I'm going to give 4 points of the issues that an older bike can give for their riders, and I'm going to have 1 point of why you should get an older bike, and of course at the end we're going to share a Bible verse, so please stick around for that. So the first reason you might consider to not get an older bike, especially if you're a new rider, is the reliability. So I've had like 8 bikes over the years. I've got 2 now, but all up I've had 8 bikes, and the 2 that were over 10 years old were the 2 that have broken down on me. All my other bikes never broke down. They were all less than 10 years old, are the ones that didn't break down, and only the ones that were over 10 years old. I had like 12, and I had this bike which was 15 when I got it, now 17, and so my CBR 600, that was 12 years old, that broke down twice. One because of the flaky kill switch problem, which you know, CBRs are known to have, and the other was I was running with low fuel. I think I had 1 litre left, and the bike didn't want to run on that low fuel. I think maybe due to being maybe water sitting on top of the fuel, or maybe it was dirty, but I gave it a clean and it came good after that. And this bike broke down on me when not so much because a part failed, but someone didn't assemble it properly, and the fuel hose came off and started leaking everywhere. And also just last week I was riding and the indicators stopped working halfway through my trip to work, so that was quite annoying, and something minor like that could really throw off, you know, a new rider. The second reason you would consider to not get an older bike is the amount of maintenance that's required. So there's things that you have to do on an older bike that you don't have to do on newer bikes. You know, you got bearings, wheel bearings, swing arm bearings, you know, just a whole heap of stuff that I can't, you know, cleaning and maintaining, indicator switches, you know, a whole heap of stuff, fuel pumps, cleaning fuel pumps. And unless you're going to be able to do that stuff yourself, it's most likely not going to be worth it. You know, I've put like tons of hours of labor into this bike, and you know, I started off like I wasn't a bike mechanic. I had no experience with bikes before I started riding, but I have had a fair few hours with car mechanics. Like I was working with a relative. I've done, you know, a few hundred hours working on cars. But when I started working on bikes, it's like I started from zero because I knew nothing about bikes. Even if the labor is free, just the amount of parts that you need to put on all the bikes would make it questionable as to whether it's, you know, worth it. Just the parts alone. And then you got tools, and then all the hours that you're putting into it. So there's a lot of maintenance, which is, if you're not prepared to do that, I would not consider getting an older bike, unless you enjoy doing it, of course. The third reason why you'd want to consider not to get an older bike is that some of the parts might not be available. So I know with the Japanese brands, I know with this bike and Kawasaki in general, you can get a lot of the parts even back to the 80s. But having said that, there are some things that maybe are not fixable on an old bike. You know, some were very difficult to fix. Also, there might be some parts, I mean, there were some parts on my bike that were not available. You know, one of the main rods for the engine mount, it was threaded. The head was threaded, and I called where I get all my parts from, and they said that they don't make that anymore. And they said they don't make it anymore. So what I ended up doing was I went to my relative's workshop and I welded a hex nut on there.
I also forgot to mention the weeks and months of downtime and not riding when you're repairing your bike.
The fourth reason to reconsider is the safety features. So there are different eras with different safety features on bikes. I think the current era is probably the one I would want to avoid, and that's where there's just too much control. You know, there's the control over the throttle, control over the braking. But there was an era, say back in the 70s or 80s, where bikes weren't even stable. You know, stability only really came about later in like the, I don't know, let's say 80s, late 80s. And then in the 90s, everything was quite raw, stable but raw. You know, no ABS, no traction. In the 2000s and, you know, say up to 2015, you know, there's ABS, traction control, which is good, but that's probably about the limit. You know, I don't see the point. I mean, people ride bikes because, you know, they leave four wheels to come to two wheels for a reason, and if two wheels becomes too easy and too controlled, to me that kind of just defeats the point of why people ride. So when you're getting an old bike, you gotta consider to some extent, you know, what safety features you are prepared to go with. That includes just stability. But the fifth reason that you might want to consider getting an older bike is maybe that you don't think they make them like they used to. You know, look wise, characteristic, engine. You know, you got like emission standards. That's always changing the way a bike sounds and the power. And maybe you want that. You want the way that they used to be made. And so in a lot of cases it is worthwhile. And for me, getting a bike that needed so much maintenance and work, like this bike, it taught me a lot. You know, I've been through a few bikes, and I learned a lot of riding, but then I guess it was time for me to learn how to fix and understand how the bike works. And that's what I definitely got when I got this bike. So anyway, that's all I got. We'll just end with a Bible verse, and that's from Isaiah chapter 41 verse 10, it says, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." So I don't know who this word is for, but if it's for you, I pray that he, he can deliver you from your problem. I mean, there are a lot of times where, I'm wondering, like, where is God? Where is God's help? But I think we always have to remember, for those who are committed to Him, God is always there. So anyway, that's all I've got. Hopefully, if you like this content, please hit the like button, or hit subscribe if you like my content in general, and type a comment, and take it easy and ride safe.